Good morning, students of class 10. You are welcome back to the classes now. Let us continue our lesson in history. So, we are doing the nationalist movement in Indochina. And we have reached 5.0, the vision of modernization. Now, there are altogether 5 points over here I have written. The number 1. The French colonialism was resisted. Resisted means stopped. They tried to stop. French colonialism was resisted at many levels and in various forms. We have learnt about the rat hunt and about other factors and other things that we have learnt in our talking modern, looking modern, about education, so about the language, and about traditions. They resisted at many levels and in various forms by the Vietnamese. Vietnamese tried to resist French colonialism or their oppressive rule in various forms and in various ways and levels. Number 2, but the Vietnamese nationalists, the people who wanted to free their country from French, but the Vietnamese nationalists had to grapple, here is a new word for you, grapple means ponder, think, ponder and examine, ponder and evaluate. The nationalists had to think and examine, in a simple word, think and examine, for grapple, with sets of questions. They had to evaluate various sets of questions. What were those various questions which they had to find the answers? Now here, they had to think and evaluate or examine with sets of questions. Many questions were there. What were those questions? You can see there over here, few questions I have written. Pay attention carefully now. What was it to be modern? Why do we need to be modern? What was it to be nationalist? Why do we want to become a nationalist? These were the questions. First, why they wanted to be modern? Why they have to be modern? Why they have to be nationalist? And in order to be modern, and if we want to be modern, in order to be modern, what was it necessary? Was it necessary to regard tradition as backward? Was it necessary to treat their tradition culture as backward and reject all the earlier ideas? According to the French, they had to reject all the earlier tradition, culture and religion. But the Vietnamese began to ponder about, began to think or evaluate, was it necessary to reject all the cultures, traditions that they had followed previously to become modern? To become modern, was it necessary to regard tradition as backward, their tradition as backward, and reject all earlier ideas and social practices? Do they have to reject all these things? Is it necessary to become modern? They began to think and ponder and evaluate. Was it necessary to consider the West as the superior or the symbol of development and civilization? To become modern, was it necessary to see the West or the French as modern, developed and civilized, a symbol of development, and try to copy their tradition and try to copy them, their culture, their religion, their traditions? Was it necessary to become modern to copy all those things? Was it necessary to see them as superior or a symbol of development or a civilized people? These were the various questions they had to think and they had to evaluate or examine. Now, different answers. Now here, different answers were offered or provided. Different answers were offered to such various questions by the Vietnamese intellectuals. Intellectuals, you know, they are educated people. The Vietnamese educated people provided various answers and various ideas and answers to these questions. Now in our next class we'll talk about, to be continued, we are not finished, to be continued, various answers provided by these individuals to the Vietnamese people. In order to be modern, what they have to do, what they should do, whether they reject all their tradition, culture and religion and copy those French traditions or French culture and religion. So, and do they have to treat their tradition as backward and consider the Europeans as superior and civilized people and a symbol of development? Was it necessary? Those answers to these questions, the answer to these questions were provided by Vietnamese intellectuals, and that we are going to do in our next class. What were the answers they provided? What answers they have thought of about these questions? So we'll talk about that in our next class. So that's all for today. Thank you for your presence and your attention. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next class and continue about the answers of these questions. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. So you can take the screenshot if you want, and you can go through this at home. You can look at the point subtitle 5.0, then you can read out at home also.